Hello, True Health Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. A quick little update. I got some feedback in our Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group, over the weekend that the last episode, episode 311, that I published felt like it had ended really abruptly. And that was really interesting that a bunch of listeners said it, because I'm sitting there like all weekend scratching my head going, that's not my experience of that interview. I really felt like we completed it. And so I went back in and looked, and sure enough, about 35 minutes of the episode was missing. There was a glitch in my when I published the episode. And so when I uploaded it to the RSS feed, it actually uploaded a very much shorter episode than what I had edited. So I corrected that and just re-uploaded it. So if you listen to episode 211 and you had that experience of, wow, that kind of ended abruptly, then you are correct. It did end abruptly because 35 minutes of the interview, the last 35 minutes, were missing. And so Dr. Valerie Baker was halfway going through her steps towards empowerment. And I'm so happy that you guys gave me some feedback in the group. Otherwise, that could have totally gone unnoticed. And I just love the interview I did with Dr. Valerie Baker. And I'm so glad that I was notified so I could go back in and correct the situation. So now you can go back and look for the episode 311 that's supposed to be about an hour and 45 minutes long. So if it's an hour and 10 minutes, that is the old copy. You're going to want to refresh because I uploaded the updated one to the system. And if you ever notice a glitchy thing happen with the podcast, please feel free to jump in the Facebook group, Learn True Health Facebook group, and notify me. Let me know. I definitely want to hear your feedback, especially if it's something that is a glitch that I can correct. And please jump in the Facebook group anyway, because it's a wonderful, supportive community of men and women who are looking to get their health back and asking the community tons of questions, and we're all learning from each other. And I've been jumping on Facebook Live and doing cooking demonstrations recently. It's been a lot of fun to include you guys in the kitchen and teach you some really quick tips to making delicious, healthy meals, because I'm all about delicious and healthy and fast. That's what I like to teach you guys when I'm jumping on Facebook Live in the kitchen. So you can go to the Learn True Health Facebook group and check out the videos that I've posted there. I want to let you know that I'm a health coach. If you're a new listener, you may not know that. I've actually been working with clients for years. In fact, back in 2005, I became a coach of neurolinguistic programming, which is more of mental and emotional health. And there was definitely a physical health component to that. And then through the years, in the last 7 years, I've been mentored by several naturopaths. They've taken me under their wing. I've even traveled with one of my mentors, traveled with him, and he trained me on how to help people. And so when I took my training with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition back in 2015, 2016, it's a year-long online program. It really helped to complete my education. And I've been working with clients long before I went through their program, but it gave me a whole new set of tools that I've been really excited to work with people with these new tools and having even better success, having great success, just loving helping people to get their health back. Now, in the past episodes, I have shared that I love helping people with their blood sugar. Because I think out of everything that I reversed, I had several diseases, that diabetes, for me, type 2 diabetes was the easiest thing to reverse. But I also reversed a difficult hormone condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome and infertility. So if you're looking to get your health back, weight loss, hormone balance, if you just, are feeling blah, or you really don't know where to start, a lot of people say to me, I just don't know where to start. I would love to talk with you. Let's have a free conversation. And even if you choose to hire me or not, we're going to have a great conversation. I can point you in the direction that you can go in, give you some great advice. And at the end of that call, if you'd like to work with me, that'd be fantastic. And I'll tell you what it looks like to work with me and to have that wonderful accountability partner. So you can go to learntruehealth.com/chat, CHAT, to chat with me. And when you go to learntruehealth.com/chat, You'll see my online scheduler. Pick a time that works best for you. Fill out a little bit of a initial questionnaire that gives me some information going into our appointment together, and then we'll chat over the phone. And I will help you. I'll get you set up on the path to success. And I really look forward to talking to you. I almost daily am talking to wonderful listeners of the Learn True Health podcast, helping them to get on the right path for their health, because I've been there and I still am. We are all on a health journey together, and together we can learn true health. So go to learntruehealth.com/chat, sign up for a free conversation with me, and let me help you. I'd love to be your health coach. And enjoy today's interview. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 312. I am so excited for today's guest. We have with us Dr. Todd Sinett, who's an expert in pain. He's a chiropractor, and he has an amazing technique called the Sinett Solution that addresses the whole body. Wow, what an amazing concept to look at the whole body when it comes to reversing disease. How did you ever
It
come
is
up
an
with
amazing
that?
concept. Yeah, it's amazing what common sense can look like sometimes.
It's just so funny. It's refreshing, but it's just so funny because we go around in life going through mainstream media where we have an arm doctor and an eye doctor and a liver doctor and a toe doctor, and none of them talk, and they all have a drug for everything. And they're not looking at the whole body and how everything relates to each other. And then we come to a holistic health practitioner like you, a chiropractor, and everyone thinks chiropractors just crack your back, and they don't realize that chiropractors have extensively more training around nutrition and supporting the body's ability to heal itself than most medical doctors do. And so you can go to a chiropractor for a whole body approach, especially Dr. Todd. So I'm very excited to have you on the show today.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, you've published some amazing books, including 3 Weeks to a Better Back. And of course, all the links to everything that Dr. Todd does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com or any of the directories that you listen to. Most people listen to on iTunes. The show notes are right there. You can click on the links and go check out Dr. Todd's website and his wonderful books. I'd love to dive into your story because it's always very interesting to find out what led to you discovering and creating the Sinett Solution that helps people to reverse back pain, especially naturally. So what happened in your life that made you want to become a chiropractor and focus on the whole body approach to healing?
Well, I think the first part of the story is it's really my father's story to start off. So my father was a chiropractor for 15 years, and he would just be adjusting or manipulating people's backs. And then one day he bent down to pick up a tennis ball, and his back went out. And that short time that he had back pain turned into 9 long months.
Wow.
And he wound up being completely debilitated by back pain to the point where he was unable to work. He was barely able to get up to go to the bathroom and was completely incapacitated for 9 months. And keep in mind that he earned his living helping other people with their back pain. So for 9 months, he did nothing but go on a search to try and figure out an answer to his own back pain. So he was treated unsuccessfully with chiropractic treatment, with physical therapy, with acupuncture, orthopedists, and it got to the point where they wanted to do exploratory surgery on him. And the term exploratory surgery basically says, we'll cut you open and we'll look, which really wasn't a great option. And thankfully, my father remembered taking this course with a fortuitous name of Dr. Goodhart. So my father flew out to Detroit to go see Dr. Goodhart. And Dr. Goodhart examined my father very differently than any other doctor had. And he was asking my father different questions about his diet, his digestive function. And Dr. Goodhart had surmised that the act of bending down to pick up a tennis ball really wasn't the causative factor of his back pain, and that other than his severe pain that he was in, he seemed to be in good health. So in speaking with my father and Dr. Goodhart poking around in my father's digestive system or gut, he found out, or he surmised, that my dad's back spasms were coming from his poor diet, which was filled with sugar, which was upsetting his stomach, which was creating something called a viscerosomatic reaction, which is just a big term that says we are what we eat, and our digestive system is very much linked to our muscular system. So Dr. Goodhart made a couple corrections and told my dad to completely change his diet. So my dad was left with two choices at this point. He chose it was either have orthopedic surgery or change your diet. So believe me, my father was completely bewildered by this doctor. Nowhere in his training in chiropractic school had he ever heard about the linkage between diet and back pain, or anyone who ever spoke of that ever before. But my father figured, let's try and change the diet and let's see what happens. So my dad changed his diet. It removed all the sugars and the irritants to his digestive system. And with about 2 or 3 weeks, my dad was 100% cured.
Amazing.
So that was the beginning of his aha moment, or the greatest tragedy, which was my father's back pain, became his greatest revelation. So after learning the role that his diet and his digestive system played on his back pain, he completely changed the way that he practiced and wanted to spread the gospel to as many people as possible. So I'm a second generation chiropractor, and it's my pleasure to be able to pick up this gospel and spread it to as many people that are willing to listen as well.
That's amazing. How old were you when this happened, when he had this revelation?
I was about 5.
Oh my gosh.
And I literally remember, again, my friends would come over and my father would literally be stuck in bed. He couldn't work, and it was a very big problem in my family. But thankfully, the biggest problem turned out to be the biggest blessing. So, the story or this information, as I got older, looking at a career, became too important for me to pass up. So I almost feel as if this is my life's mission, to help as many people as possible, or teach as many people as possible that we're going about and we're approaching our diagnosis and our treatments to back pain completely wrong. So, we've come up with the term the Sinett Solution, and it's really the right approach to diagnose and treat back pain. So it's a paradigm problem. It's a philosophical problem, which is why we have so much back pain. So, back pain, if you ever look at the statistics of back pain, is we're in a complete health epidemic. 20% of the world's population suffering from back pain. 85% of the world will suffer from back pain. It's the second leading cause of missed work days. It's the number one reason for job disability. And all we keep doing is putting more energy, more effort, more money, more time, more invasive treatments to try and treat back pain. And the result is all we do is keep having more back pain. So something needed to change.
What about those who, let's say they're 50 or 60 or 70, and they had, like you said, they bend down to pick up the tennis ball, or maybe they fall and bump, they fall on their butt, or something happens and now they have pain. So they go, well, something happened. Now I have pain. Are you telling me the way I've eaten my entire life is the reason why 9 months after my back healed from the injury, I still have pain? Why didn't I have pain my whole life? I've been eating this way my whole life.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the way that I would answer is you have to realize that the only thing random in the body is trauma. Okay, so if you fall off a bicycle, if you're involved in a motor vehicle accident, or if you fall, that's trauma, and that's a random event. But other than that, everything else is building little by little by little. So back pain will come from 3 sources. It will come from structural imbalances or structural inflammation, and that's where we're spending all of our current energy and time and effort. So that's the muscles, the bones, the discs, the nerves. That's a structural approach. Another factor is actually Stanford University found that stress is actually the number one factor when it comes to back pain. So stress and emotions are a very important factor. And the third factor that we've already discussed or mentioned is your diet, nutrition, and your digestive function. So any imbalance in one of those 3 areas can absolutely create your back pain. And oddly enough, it could also very commonly be some form or combination of all 3, or 2 of 3, or something like that. So yes, if you bend down and tie your shoes and your back goes out, very rarely was it the bending of the shoes that created the problem.
Now, what about those people who take drugs to mask the symptoms of the pain, and the pain goes away temporarily?
Yes.
You're saying that because they would say, well, I took a pain med and it made the pain go away in my back. Why would it be my diet?
Yes. So just because the pain went away didn't mean that the problem went away. So I always say that just because just because it's analogous to removing the battery from a smoke alarm because the noise is too loud. So you really actually want to listen to the body rather than telling it to shut up. And by no means am I saying that drugs or medication could be the greatest thing that ever happened. It can, but we always want to try and figure out the cause and the source of the back pain rather than just trying to silence or mimic the body's language.
So in your life, you were 5 when you saw this happen to your dad. So
Yeah.
really pretty early on, you were maybe 5 or 6 and he turned around and said, all right, all the junk food out of the house. Do you remember that day? Do you remember the day you're like, what, where did my cookies go? Where did my cornflakes
Exactly.
go?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to realize that we need to figure out what's the right diet for the particular individual and what you can eat and what you can't eat. And what's healthy for you is not necessarily healthy for some. So some people could be very sensitive to dairy, and that can create a problem, even though dairy could be looked at as a very healthy food, or too much roughage. So you really want to make sure that we're listening to our bodies and make sure that having good digestive function, because that's really the key. So if our digestive system is functioning right, it's not going to create so much inflammation or irritation and thus create back pain. So back to this medication is when people are in a lot of pain, doctors will frequently prescribe anti-inflammatory medication, right? So if you have a diet that is anti-inflammatory in nature, in theory, it can accomplish the same thing naturally.
So you're taking a medication, it's going to lower the inflammation, or you could be taking a natural medication like turmeric
Exactly.
and your willow bark extract and all this, natural herbs, but it's still masking the symptoms, not addressing the root cause.
Yes, but if you're finding out that you're, let's say, gluten sensitive, or let's say the sugar is what's creating the inflammation, and you remove the irritant, you're not masking your symptoms, you're actually fixing the inflammation, getting rid of the inflammation, and thus fixing the problem.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you help people figure out what foods do they need to avoid, and do they need to avoid them for the rest of their life? Like, what is going on in the body? What foods are causing the inflammation? How do you figure that out? Are there blood tests, or should they do an elimination diet?
Yeah, actually, it's a lot easier than one would think. So in my book, the Back Pain Relief Diet book, the first thing I have is something called the digestive inflammation test, and that's a way or questions that are skewed to a patient to see if we think that your back pain is being caused by your diet. So we're checking about foods that they're having a lot frequently eating. Are they having a lot of caffeine? Are they having a lot of sugar? Are they having a lot of alcohol? Are they having constipation, diarrhea, stomach upset? And then if we find that, yes, it does seem that your back pain is coming from your digestive system, then we have the diagnostic nutrition test. And in my book, I have three different diets to try to see if we can do everything we can to cut down on the inflammation, the irritation of a person's particular diet. So if someone we found is having too much sugar or too much caffeine, too much alcohol, we have what we call the No More Back Pain or Paleo Plus meal plans that are filled with recipes and diets so that you can go through and eliminate those particular foods. If someone's having too much roughage, too many salads, too much irritants for the digestive system, we have a diet called the digestive rest. And then also if someone suffers from irritable bowel syndrome, we have something called the FODMAPs diet, which is remove specific irritant foods for that particular person. And then what you do is you ideally do that for about 3 weeks. And then we get you feeling as good as we can, as quickly as possible in those 3 weeks. And then we have a patient slowly reintroduce foods to see what could be irritating them and what can't be. And again, everyone is unique, so you really want to make sure that you're calming that down.
Mm-hmm. So there's no testing. You don't recommend like the IgG, IgA, or IgE blood tests?
It can be helpful, but I would really try to kind of do it on your own first by really just cleaning up your diet, following a diet that's basically almost an elimination diet, and then put some foods back in and see how your body responds. That would be my first recommendation.
Why is that? Why is that your first recommendation?
I just think it's the easiest thing. I think you can fix it on your own. And, I like to do things nice, easy, and simple. And if that works, that's a great way to go. But, there's certainly other steps and other processes anyone can go through to get to the bottom of it. But I always recommend in any kind of back pain sufferer is you always want to do the least invasive test first and then continue on to the more and more invasive. So step one would be to kind of take that test and kind of clear up your own individual diet first. That would be my recommendation.
Mm-hmm. And it really is something as simple as 3 weeks. to notice an improvement in the pain as an
Yes.
indication that the diet is working, that the diet is removing the inflammation that was exacerbating and causing the pain?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that's to rule in or you rule out your diet within 21 days, you really can get a very, very good answer. A lot of times it'll come quicker. I've seen patients 5 days, 8 days, something like that. But yes, within 3 weeks, you really can get a good feel if you're barking up the right tree. So, I mean, the great thing is that it's very quick, it's very easy, it's very inexpensive, and it can't do any harm. So, I urge anyone before they're about to do any kind of invasive back test or surgery
Surgery.
or any kind of that, you want to rule in or rule out whether you think your diet could be a factor.
Mm.
That's very, very important.
Can you share with me off the top of your head some stories of success that have really stuck with you, that have just amazed you, like the kind of quality of life people get back when they follow the Sinett method?
Sure. I mean, again, because we're living in a world where back pain is so common that everyone thinks it's normal. And back pain is not normal. Just because misery has a company doesn't make it normal. So, I mean, we literally have people who've had back surgery, who are unable to run, exercise, work out, anyone who's unable to lift their child. Also, people who are literally living their life around their back pain. So they're very careful not to bend funny, not to lift funny, not to overexert. The person who has to take Advil before and after exercising. Back pain could be completely debilitating. And what you want to do is you really want to try and get to the cause of the back pain and address it and try and fix it so people can get their quality of lives back. Over my 20-year career, I would say the stories are just way too numerous. It can make such a difference in someone's quality of life, and that helping people with back pain is a lot easier than everyone would think. And I don't want anyone to resign themselves, regardless of what they've been diagnosed with, whether they've been diagnosed with a herniated disc, whether they've been diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, whether they've been diagnosed with spinal stenosis, arthritic back. These are all terms that are almost life sentences. So they literally convince the patient or the person that they should spend the rest of their life suffering from back pain. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Again, because we're only looking at a third of the possible problems, the causes, the diagnosis, and the solutions of back pain, we're missing it. We're missing 2/3 of the equation because your doctors are not looking at a structural issue, they're not looking at it as an emotional or stress issue, and they're not looking at it as a digestive or diet issue. And it's been great to, again, present the missing 66 or 2/3 of the equation to the public because it really can help so many people.
Oh, I agree. The diet is medicine. It makes so much sense. Do you have a personal, like, one-on-one experience with people that got their life back? Do you have any stories you can share?
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you a very interesting, just a diet story. So, a patient of mine referred her daughter in, and she was always suffering terribly from lower back pain. She was always suffering from gas. She was suffering from bloating, and she was convinced that she was gluten sensitive. So she would continue to eat all gluten-free foods and was very, very strict on her diet, had lots of salads, and stayed away from any kind of gluten. And after speaking with her gas and her bloating, we had the thought or the feeling that it wasn't a gluten sensitivity. It was just that she was having so much roughage that the roughage was upsetting her digestive system, which was then refluxing and creating all this back pain. So we actually broadened her diet. We encouraged her to have healthier sandwiches, less roughage, cut down on the volume of smoothies or green drinks, and eat whole foods and have much more of a variety of foods. And within 2 weeks, her bloating was gone, her back pain was gone. She was exercising within 3 weeks, and her life was changed by making a simple correction, even though she thought she was doing something that was helpful and I would say widespread kind of healthy, but it was very, very unhealthy for her. So while that not be the most common case, it certainly was really resonated. So it was really nice to be able to be of help to her.
I like that example because for most of the population, eating salads and doing green smoothies would cause health gains. But we have to remember that we should not prescribe to anyone diet dogma. It is about using food as medicine, and you wouldn't give everyone an ibuprofen, or if you think about medicine, you're not going to give everyone the same drug. So why give everyone the same diet? We should look at what the body needs. So if someone has a candida overgrowth, then you're going to give them a significantly different diet than someone who, needs more roughage, right? So it's more about
Exactly.
individualized. Yeah. And so I love that your book teaches people to listen to the symptoms of their own body and play with the food, because you're really empowering people to start listening. And I like, now I'm starting to get why you want people to do an elimination diet first before they seek testing, because you're putting them back in the driver's seat by listening to their body as they adjust their diet.
Yeah, I want their body and I want them to make decisions from strength, not from weakness. I don't want them to reach false conclusions. So the question is that it's not so much what is a healthy diet, but what's a healthy diet for you. So, my story or my aha moment was as a New Year's resolution, I decided I was going to have oatmeal every day for breakfast. So for breakfast, I had oatmeal every day. I had a salad and a lean protein for lunch, and then lean protein and vegetables for dinner. And within 5 days, I was never so sick in my life. Um, and again, I had never been quote unquote eating healthier, but it was very, very unhealthy for me. I was gassy, I was bloated. Within 3 days, I could barely turn my neck. I had a complete stiff neck. And the only difference was me having oatmeal every day for breakfast. And what I did was I stopped having the oatmeal because evidently the oatmeal was too much roughage, upset my digestive system, created a problem for me. I went back to having eggs, whole grain toast, whole grain cereals, or whole, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for breakfast. And that turned out to be much healthier for me and calm my digestive system and got me feeling better rather than the oatmeal. Now, I'm never going to tell anyone that peanut butter and jelly sandwich is more nutritious than oatmeal. It was just my body could digest the peanut butter and jelly, but couldn't digest the oatmeal.
But at that point, wouldn't you want to get them on some kind of support to help them digest? Or do you think it just the body needed a rest to reset?
On these particular cases, they just need a rest to reset. But yes, I mean, there are different phases to it and processes. And yes, vitamin supplements can very well be helpful. But again, I want to start nice, easy, and simple first.
Mm. Because you want to support the body in coming back into balance. So if the digestive system is off, we want to help it come back. And food is the first thing, because food can be like fuel that we're throwing on the fire, or it could be like water that we're throwing on the fire, right?
Exactly. I say that the diet could be the cause of your back pain, and your diet could be the solution of your back pain.
Mm. So, what steps would you have people take right now? So, regardless of whether they have back pain or not, because I have a feeling 100% of the listeners would benefit from what you teach, because the diet is ramping up, causing more inflammation, and then all of a sudden we have something breaks, right? We have, like you said, the
Yep.
injury. And if the inflammation is already high from stress, from sugar, if we already have high inflammation in the body, the cortisol levels are high, then then we have the injury, then
Yep.
it's just exacerbated even after it heals, based on what you're saying, and it makes so much sense. So those who have not had an injury, knock on wood, they could right now benefit from doing a diet that supports their body in lowering inflammation, or at least not contributing to it. So what could people do now, regardless of whether they have pain or not?
When it comes to back pain, I really think back pain is really not the problem. I think it's an inflammation factor that winds up in your back. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of the inflammation. So the inflammation can be structural or postural in nature. So we want to address all the structural and postural inflammation first. So we want to make sure that we're having extension in our body. There's a product that I created called the back bridge, and that undoes all of the forward hunch and forward posture that we have in our day. So the vast majority of people were sitting so hunched forward all day because we're sitting in front of our computers, we're sitting in our cars, we're looking down at our smartphones. We want to make sure that we have good posture and alignment. So that's very, very important. We want to make sure we have good flexibility. We want to make sure we're getting good exercise. We're out walking, moving around, doing some good exercise. So whether you need to see a chiropractor, physical therapist, or massage therapist, we want to get the body in structural alignment and balance and cut down on the structural inflammation. The next factor is emotional inflammation. So we really want to take a look at how our emotions and our stress is impacting our body and what is creating a physiologic effect on our body. See, emotions are not just psychological, it creates a physiologic response. So if you have a dream that a monster is chasing you, you wake up, you say there's no monster chasing you, but your heart's racing, your pulse pounding, you're sweating, for all intensive purposes, the monster chased you. So whether things are real or imagined makes absolutely no difference. So what we want to do is we want to do everything we can to eliminate that physiologic response from our emotions and our stress. And to fix that, that could be going out and exercising, that could be going out for walks, that could be going out and doing meditation, that could be taking a boxing class, that could be talking with a therapist, seeing a psychologist, seeing a psychiatrist. But what you want to do is you want to reduce and eliminate as much of the inflammation from the emotions as possible. And then what we discussed earlier is we want to cut down on all of the digestive inflammation and irritation. So the first thing I would recommend in my book is to take the digestive inflammation test to see how much of your inflammation is coming from your diet and your digestive system. And then take the nutritional test to see which diet, or a diagnostic nutrition test, see which diet we think is the best place for you to start, and clean up your diet as best as possible. And if you get balance in those three areas, your likelihood of having back pain severely, severely diminishes and decreases. And then the very interesting thing, Ashley, is that a lot of these things are very much interrelated. So our structural system and our emotional system and our emotional system and our digestive system all very much linked. So if we're eating a hot fudge sundae when we're depressed, it's a complete different biochemical and hormonal response than if we're eating a hot fudge sundae when we're celebrating. So we want to make sure that we have balance in all three areas because they're all interrelated and interlinked.
Hmm.
And that is what we call as the Sinett Solution.
So how many years have you been teaching this?
I've been doing this for over 20. My father had been doing it for over 45. And it's been a pleasure to really not work a day in my life and to meet some wonderful, wonderful people and have some wonderful, wonderful experiences to try and help people as much as possible. And it's
I
really a
bet.
true joy and a gift to be able to spread this information to as many people as possible.
That's so cool. That's so cool. When someone starts on, so they do the Sinett solution and they start on it and they're getting some sort of traction. Maybe they're seeing a decrease. Not maybe they will. They'll see a decrease in their pain. They're dialing in their diet, but their pain doesn't totally go away. It's just decreased. What would, so let's do some troubleshooting. What would you say to that? Is there still something in their diet that's not healthy?
Yeah, so again, I always believe in the first most important thing is do the least invasive thing first and then keep progressing forward. And I also want to say that all of these things that you've heard of work. There have been some amazing people whose lives have been saved by orthopedic surgery. I've sent patients for surgery. You just want to do step by step by step, and there's phases to it, right? So if the chiropractor and the physical therapist and the massage therapist, which is I kind of call phase one, are not helping, there's non-surgical orthopedists or physiatrists that can do a lot of natural approaches and natural healing, such as trigger point injections. The doctor who I work with does injections with Traumeel, which is a natural homeopathic. That is a bit more invasive, but is a kind of a level 2 aspect of it on the structural side. Or on the diet thing, that if you're not able to manage it yourself, go and see a nutritionist. And if that doesn't help, a step 3 would go see a gastroenterologist and get tested, get allergy testing to kind of rule out what's going on for your digestive function. On the emotions, if you can't handle your stress yourself, if you're having trouble managing it, go see a stress management counselor. Do something in our office. We do something called biofeedback, where we hook up people to monitors and we measure their response to stress. And then we teach them how to get their body in a relaxative state or a zone so they can change that response to emotions. If that doesn't help, go see a therapist. I think it's great to really speak and try and work out the issues that we may have. If that doesn't help, there's a psychiatrist where perhaps a medication could be of help. So there's so many different aspects and different ways to go. You just want to make sure that you're hitting all the different aspects. We want to figure out if our back pain is predominantly emotional, predominantly digestive, predominantly structural, and where to go. So one of our main problems is with our back pain is our treatments are based on who you see is what you get and not really what you have. So if you wind up in a chiropractor's office, you're going to get adjusted. If you wind up in a physical therapist's office, you're going to do rehab exercises. And if you're in an orthopedist's office, you're going to get injected. And if you're in a primary care doctor's, you're going to wind up with medication. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that you'll wind up in the right place first, because that's when you're going to have the success.
I love that you brought that up. You have to always think about the tool belt that the
Yeah.
practitioner has. If you go to an MD, what is in their tool belt? They've got,
Yes.
they've got tests, they've got surgeries, they've got drugs. But you don't go to typically wouldn't go to see a medical doctor and they tell you need some homeopathy and you need to you need to use some essential oils and take a nice long walk and drink chamomile tea.
Exactly.
Right, right. So we want to, and I like that you brought up that we should look at the least invasive first. It's so funny. I had an amazing cardiologist on the show, Dr. Esselstyn, who reverses heart disease, like 4 blockages in the heart, like total, like deathbed heart disease with diet. And it's funny because some people are like, because his diet is pretty extreme. I mean, there's no salt, no oil, no sugar. It's just all vegetables. There's no meat. There's no animal products. So you're pretty much eating 6 times a day steamed vegetables, and with some balsamic, and maybe a sweet potato and some brown rice. But that is it. You're like living off of vegetables. And so for the man that created the 4 blockages in his heart that ate McDonald's every day, total stereotype, right? He thinks that diet's pretty extreme, but what's more extreme, changing your diet or getting open heart surgery?
Agreed. Yes. And it's funny because what's more common sense is changing your lifestyle or your diet, or shoving a big needle in your back, or
Right.
or removing a disc in your back.
Right.
So
Right.
we want to work at this, but we want to be common sense, and you just want to be smart about the approach. I mean, I will say that there's the rate of back surgery in the U.S. is extremely high, to the point where the success rate is so poor that we literally have a diagnosis code called FBSS, and that's called failed back surgical syndrome. So, I mean, that is the height of insanity to me, that our results are so poor that we literally have a condition or a diagnosis based called failed back surgical syndrome.
So it's failed back surgery, basically.
Yes.
Syndrome.
Yes. So it's a person who's had surgery, still failed, and they're still suffering terribly because the surgery didn't work. It's called failed back surgery syndrome.
That's amazing. I read the book years ago, Healing Back Pain.
Mm-hmm.
I believe is it Dr. John E. Sarno or?
Yes, Dr. Sarno.
I was so taken aback by his discovery that there's an emotional connect, that some people found the root cause of their chronic back pain or their chronic pain was in their unresolved emotions.
Yep. So Dr. Sarno was a brilliant doctor who helped millions of people, because he literally argued that your back pain can't be structural, and that your back pain must be caused by your emotions and your stress. He helped millions and millions of people and presented a complete different paradigm to all of the back pain sufferers. So it's my actual opinion that he was great. He helped millions of people, because back pain can be very much structural. It can be emotional, which he helped millions of people with. And again, Stanford University ran a landmark study where they found that the number one factor for back pain is stress related. So anyone, the first thing that if you're suffering from back pain, the first thing that you should be thinking about or asking yourself, rather than, oh, did I just blow out a disc, is what's going on with my stress? What's going on with my stress levels? He was only presenting another third of the equation. Whereas what I'm saying is that back pain can be emotional, it can be structural, and it could also be dietary and digestive.
But
so
it
that's
could be
the
all
whole,
of them.
That's the whole picture. And a combination of the three, right? How many people do you see have bad posture and alignment, or overweight, or not eating healthy, and completely stressed out? So you can't, right?
You just described like 70% of the population.
Agreed. So why do we think that we can correct this with an injection or an adjustment or whatnot? We have to hit all 3 aspects to be successful. Otherwise, you're only going to be a third successful. And that's why so many people live with their back pain, right? So it's not so bad, it's not so terrible, but it's not so great either, because they're not hitting all aspects of it. We're only hitting a little small piece of it.
What if we see a chiropractor, the back pain goes away, but then it comes back in a week or 2, and maybe not fully, but we still like every few weeks we go back to the chiropractor, and then every few weeks we sort of have pain. Do you think the people benefit from continually throughout their life seeing a massage therapist or a chiropractor just to come back into alignment? Or do you think if people have pain come back every few weeks after an adjustment that they should definitely consider looking at stress and emotions and looking into diet and gut health um, to see if those are exacerbating the issue to continually come back?
That is a great question. So I always tell patients my goal is to see them as little as possible, with them retain the results as long as possible. So if we keep making the same correction, but it doesn't keep holding, chances are we're kind of missing something, right? So is it because the person's so stressed out? Is it because of their diet, their digestive systems? Or are they just so active? And listen, you're not going to get fit or be in great shape by exercising once. So maybe all of these things are part of a normal routine to keep your body in as good a balance as possible. Maybe the adjustment or the massage is not only keeping your structure and your system in alignment, but also perhaps the massage is relieving a lot of stress as well. So we want to come up with the right formula for that right individual.
How do we figure out the right formula for us?
That's a very good question. So in my book, 3 Weeks to Better Back, it's going to kind of take you through that to figure out if your back pain is structural, if your back pain is digestive, if your back pain is emotional, and how to broach it, how to score it, and how to attack it. Um, and you just get to it. So you try different treatments, you try different theories, you try different foods, you have an elimination diet, you go for regular walks, you listen to music, you do different breathing techniques or different tapping techniques to relax your system. And we want to see what resonates with the particular individual. What may work for me may not work for you, but you can create it. You can really figure out the answers.
Now you have several books.
Yes.
So let's just talk about each one and figure out which one's best. Like, because, I'm sure everyone would benefit from reading all three books, but which one's best for each person? So let's start with 3 Weeks to a Better Back. What kind of people should read that book?
Okay. 3 Weeks to a Better Back is the book that I wrote for back pain sufferers. So it's for people who are suffering from back pain who really need some help. It is a self-diagnostic, self-treatment kind of book, because it's going to steer you in the right direction to figure out if your back pain is structural in nature, if your back pain is emotional in nature, if your back pain is digestive in nature, and how to attack it, who to see if you need some extra help, what self-care you can do on your own, and really how to kind of fix it. So I think that's a really good way to bring the information to the layperson to really get an education on really what's going on with your back and back pain. There's so much misinformation out there. One of my favorite pieces or nuggets of the book, there was a study in 1994 where they put 98 people in an MRI machine. The results were two-thirds had a disc bulge, and I think it was 26 or 28% showed a disc herniation. So a disc herniation is, a very big or severe problem. But the amazing thing back in 1984 is these 98 people never suffer from back pain.
Mm-hmm.
So the efficacy, the usefulness of an MRI is completely misguided. And the research now shows that MRIs have been proven to actually be more harmful than helpful in diagnosing back pain. So the research has shown that the MRIs are leading to higher specialist consultations, higher specialist interactions, i.e. more surgeries, more injections, more medications, but not better patient outcomes. So there's a lot of myth or mythology out there that we really need to dial back and educate the back pain sufferer or the general public so that they can really take it in their own hands and become empowered to figure out how to help and fix their own back. So 3 Weeks to a Better Back is that's what I really want to do. I wanted to educate the general public on what was going on, how to figure out where your back pain is, and what to do about it. The Back Pain Relief Diet book is a whole book really dedicated for people who we feel that their back pain is diet related or digestive related. So the vast population has no idea that their diet could be the cause of their back pain and subsequently could be the solution to their back pain. So if you've tried everything, if you had plenty of structural treatments, you've tried to reduce your stress levels and nothing seems to bother you, really want you to take a fine look at if your diet is the factor. And that's the Back Pain Relief Diet book. So that's pretty much presenting that missing piece or that missing third to the general population and public. And the other book I did between them is called Ultimate Back Bridge Stretch Book. So I designed a product called the Back Bridge, and you can look for more information at backbridge.com. And I found a commonality on structural treatments for people and people's back pain. And one of the commonalities is that we're all suffering from too much flexion or too much forward posture. So we're all hunched forward. If you ever look at anyone's posture, even now when someone's sitting, we're all hunched forward. And what we really need to do is we need to do extension, which is the opposite of bending forward. So what we need to do is we need to balance out or undo our day from that forward hunch. So I designed a product called the Back Bridge. And what it is something that you lay over, and you lay over it 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes in the evening. And what it does, it provides very necessary progressive extension to one spine to realign the spine, to realign your posture so that your posture and your structure is aligned properly. And that will alleviate a lot of the back pain. And then as you progress, you can go higher and higher levels. I call it kind of the Invisalign for the spine, so slowly removing all that forward posture and forward hunch in the body. And then with the book, with the Back Bridge, you're able to do a full different stretch routines where you can stretch out your calves, your quadriceps, any muscle in your body, so we can regain our flexibility. Because I would say the lack of flexibility in our body is probably the missing link when it comes to any kind of fitness. So a lot of people are really spending a lot of time on their aerobic function, their weightlifting, their weight training, but I really believe that flexibility is the key in all of this. So that's what the Ultimate Back Bridge Stretch Book is as well.
I'm looking at it. If listeners just go to your website and drsinett.com, of course, that link's going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. I'm looking at a picture of the cover of the Ultimate Back Bridge Stretch Book, and it looks sort of like a dome that if you took a dome and mixed it with one of those step machines, the step, the step classes we used to do back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And I love it. There's a picture of a woman stretching out her leg muscles, and it looks like it's really giving her the optimal angle to get that great stretch. And that looks really cool. Yeah, it looks really neat. It makes a lot of sense.
The thing is with stretching is you can't keep doing the same stretch over and over again, and you need to customize it for you or the individual, and you want to be able to progress. So what the Back Bridge does is it has 5 interlocking pieces where you can alter the intensity and the flexibility of a stretch. So you can make it easier or harder, all predicated for yourself. And that's very, very important because so many people are just doing the same stretch over and over again and not progressing. And they're apt to hurt themselves. So we want it to be nice, easy, and safe, but you want to be able to continue to progress through different stretches. And that's what the Back Bridge allows you to do.
Now, I like that you brought up flexibility, because one thing that people tend to do when they have chronic pain or back pain is stop moving their body.
Yep.
They tend to sit more in flexion, meaning the shoulders come together towards the center and down. We start creating like the dowager's hump behind us. We tend to just start curling inwards, and that posture over time can cut off the oxygen. That's actually one of the things we notice in seniors as they continue, their posture continues to go downwards, flexing downwards. They lose the ability to take full deep breaths, and they end up being more susceptible to having pneumonia because their body isn't breathing fully, and so water can collect in their lungs when there's an infection, and that's life threatening. So posture, and something as simple as posture or working with your stretch book and moving is so important. But anyone at any age, when we have an injury, when we have pain, our first instinct is to stop moving. And then as it becomes chronic, like you said, your dad was lying there for 9 months. Doesn't that exacerbate the problem by not moving?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, the 15 years ago, doctors would prescribe bed rest. And that turned out to be the worst prescription because if you're going to ask me my best exercise for back pain, it's getting out and walking. So by going out and walking, you're moving around, you're circulating your blood, you're circulating your lymph. It's a very important stress reliever, and also is teaching you and your body that you're not so crippled, that you can move and walk around. So yeah, bed rest is the worst thing you can do, and moving around really can be the best.
Now there's that fine line because if they are recovering from an actual injury, they need to move and move in a way that still supports the body in healing. But often isn't chronic back pain like it wouldn't be injured by moving, right? So chronic back pain is helped by moving, or chronic pain in general. We're not worried about re-injuring something by doing something simple like walking.
I would say probably the worst thing you could do is be sitting. Sitting and lying and not moving is probably certainly way worse than moving around a bit. But if you're concerned or whatnot, please seek out a professional, see a physical therapist, see a chiropractor, see somebody who knows what they're talking about. But it's a general consensus you want people moving around and circulating rather than sitting and getting stiff and being stuck in one position.
Have you ever experienced pain in your life?
I've suffered my fair share of back pain. Um, I had a reaction when I was lifting weights one time, but it was very funny because I was lifting very light weights, but it happened to be during a very stressful time of my life, and I was just lifting 5 pound weights, and my neck went out, and it was fascinating to me because I knew it wasn't the weight that caused the problem. I could very easily said I did the exercise wrong or I lifted wrong, but it was really all the tension that I brought and the amount of emotional stress I was
Mm.
having at the time that really was the cause factor and not the exercise itself.
That makes so much sense. So really, I mean, really stress in a long-term way is just waiting there to create pain, or to be a symptom to tell the body, hey, to tell us, hey, we need to change something. We need to shift something. This is hurting us.
Yeah. When my father passed away, I was unable to drink orange juice for about 6 months. And every morning I would have orange juice, with my breakfast. And after my father passed away, my body was unable to digest orange juice. The acid from the orange juice was just too much for me. And it wasn't
Mm.
until I was able to heal and get over the grief of his passing, was able to digest orange juice again. But the problem was never the orange juice. It was me who couldn't process the orange juice.
I love that you described that, because sometimes people are like, what is, my body is just crazy. I don't even understand anything. Like, what is going on? Why I could eat eggs, now I can't eat eggs. I could eat, like, for me,
Yes.
I could all of a sudden after the pregnancy, which again, like incredibly stressful, right? And then a few months after the pregnancy, we had a really bad falling out with our business partner and lost 70% of our income while we were like, I'm holding a baby, in my hands. And
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So we were just like super stressed. And then all of a sudden I was having digestive issues. I'm like, what is going on? My digestion's normally like perfect. And I finally ruled out that I could not eat bananas. I ate bananas for 3 days. I'd be running to the toilet. I stopped eating bananas. It went away. I'm like, what, bananas? Why am I allergic to bananas?
Right.
And I was like, I just chalked it up to the body's weird. It does weird things. Pregnancy kind of messed it up, whatever. But now that you're describing that, now it's starting to make sense. Okay, I had high levels of stress that was unchecked, super high levels of stress. So the inflammation was already there, and then the banana was just ready to sort of push the dominoes over the edge, right?
Yeah. I'll share stories with patients of, like, did you ever realize if you went wildly off your diet on vacation and you still felt great? Someone go wildly off in their normal environment, they have to be very, very strict on their diet. Otherwise, they suffer a myriad of symptoms. You go on vacation and they go wildly off the diet and they still feel great. And the difference is not the food, it was you're so much happier and more relaxed on vacation that your digestive system functions better on vacation when you're relaxed than when you're in your normal routine. So, that's a way that I'll frequently explain that to patients.
That is so funny. Dr. Brooke White's a naturopath, had told me, she goes, every time a patient of mine goes to Hawaii, they come back and they have no more symptoms. So now I'm just prescribing a trip to Hawaii because that seems to make everything go away.
It's very true.
And that is a really great indication. If you go on vacation and all of your symptoms seem to go away, then that is the telltale sign that stress is the root cause of all your symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, doctors prescribe vacations or rests or spa treatments because it works.
What happened in our culture that we don't value that?
Exactly. Well, we're trying to change that, you and I.
Yes. Wonderful. You have so much great information around this. I love how simple you make it. Now, you've been on major TV shows, and I know those TV shows, you're given a very limited amount of time to make an impactful statement. You've been on The View, Fox MD, A Good Day New York. You've taught at the Learning Annex, and you've been on MSNBC. Can you tell us a little bit about what is it like being a pain expert on these shows? Can you pull back the curtain and share with us what it's like being on these shows and having like 3 minutes to teach people how to eliminate their pain?
Sure. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's stressful, but it's really interesting to see how the media world works. But it's just great to be able to share this information with as many people as possible. So, just to be able to appear on this podcast is a great treat for me to share all this information with your listeners. But it's nothing but a great joy to spread the gospel, to realize that back pain can come from three sources. It can come from a structural, it can come from diet, nutrition, and emotions. And you need to look at all three if you're going to solve the problem. And that's my simple message.
Wonderful. Well, I love your message, and I think your books are very impactful. And I like that you get to the point, and you're looking for the most impactful root cause approach and the approach that's going to be the least invasive. I think we all need to think about that when it comes to our care, because it's tempting to take the pain medication and to, go down that rabbit hole, or go to the practitioner and not think, well, in advance, well, what tools does this practitioner have? Because if you're going to a traditional doctor, they might bring up surgery, MRIs. And like you said, there's just a percentage of the population doesn't have any pain, but they on an MRI will show discs being malformed. And there's enough proof in that malformed discs do not equal back pain. But when they find them, they sure as heck want to do surgery on them. And then, like you said, then they still have their pain because that wasn't the root cause. And now they get to be that little diagnosis. What was it?
Failed back surgical syndrome, FBSS.
Failed back surgical syndrome. And we do not want to be a failed surgery. If
we're gonna have surgery, we want it to be successful.
Right. So it's best to rule everything else first. Working on emotions, changing a diet. I know some people go, but what about my bonbons? What about but I love cheese, or I love, whatever, right? And we just have to get the big perspective that sometimes shifting our diet to see if it's the root cause, it's not permanent, right? Because sometimes, like you said, you couldn't drink that orange juice, and the orange juice was like throwing fuel on the fire. But when you managed your stress and you worked through the emotions, then it wasn't like throwing fuel on the fire anymore. So we have to look at everything as a whole and know that it's so much it's so much better for the body to adjust a diet and to look at healing emotions and to go for some structural support first, than to choose the more invasive things that may not work and that may actually damage our body further and cause its own complications and its own pain, right? So I love that you bring this to the table in a simple and effective manner. I love that you give us actionable steps. Is there anything else left unsaid? Is there anything that you'd like to say today to the listener that you want the opportunity to convey?
I just want to convey that solving your back pain is a lot simpler than you think. And you don't need to be okay with suffering for back pain on a pain level of a 2 out of 10. I don't want you to live your life around your back pain. I want to address all the situations and solutions head on and really allow you to live a very happy, active, healthy life, because you don't need to be living with your back pain.
I like they said hacktive by mistake. I think yes. That's a word, hacktive now. It's like hangry, right?
Feel free to use it as much as you like. It's happy and active. It's hacktive.
Yeah, we should all be hacktive in life.
Totally.
That's your next book, right?
I love it.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Todd Sinett, for coming on the show today. You're welcome to come back anytime you have a new book, especially your hacktive book. We'd love to have you back to teach us how to be more hacktive in our life. And it's been a pleasure having you here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so, so very much. I really appreciate it.
Hello, true health seeker. Have you ever thought about becoming a health coach? Do you love learning about nutrition and how we can shift our lifestyle and our diet so that we can gain optimal health and happiness and longevity? Do you love helping your friends and family to solve their health problems and to figure out what they can do to eat healthier? Are you interested in becoming someone who can grow their own business, support people in their success? Do you love helping people? You might be the perfect candidate to become a health coach. I highly recommend checking out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I just spent the last year in their health coaching certification program, and it really blew me away. It was so amazing. I learned over 100 dietary theories. I learned all about nutrition, but from a standpoint of how we can help people to shift their life and shift their lifestyle to gain true holistic health. I definitely recommend you check them out. You can Google Institute for Integrative Nutrition or IIN and give them a call, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and you can receive a free module of their training to check it out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. Be sure to mention my name, Ashley James, and the Learn True Health podcast, because I made a deal with them that they will give you the best price possible. I highly recommend checking it out. It really changed my life to be in their program, and I'm such a big advocate that I wanted to spread this information. We need more health coaches. In fact, health coaching is the largest growing career right now in the health field. So many health coaches are getting in and helping people because you can work in chiropractic offices, doctors' offices, you can work in hospitals, you can work online through Skype and help people around the world. You can become an author, you can go into the school system and help your local schools shift their programs to help children be healthier. You can go into senior centers and help them to shift their diet and lifestyle to best support them in their success and their health goals. There's so many different available options for you when you become a certified health coach. So check out IIN, check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, mention my name, get the best deal. Give them a call and they'll give you lots of free information and help you to see if this is the right move for you. Classes are starting soon. The next round of classes are starting at the end of the month. So you're going to want to call them now and check it out. And if you know anyone in your life who would be an amazing coach, please tell them about it. Being a health coach is so rewarding and you get to help so many people. Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.